Neil here. This is a quick demonstration of a modification that I did recently to a LulzBot Taz 6 printer. I was not pleased with how the auto leveling worked. Initially it would use the nozzle, you can kind of see it through there, and it would touch down on these four corner pads and hypothetically make contact with them and then tell it where the auto leveling should take place. In actual practice, if there was any plastic or other contaminant on the tip of the extruder, it would cause the contact not to be made. I'm going to move the z-axis up a little bit. It would cause the contact not to be made, and if it was bad enough, it would simply fail the process. So in hunting around, it was recommended that I get this BLTouch, which I have done so. And you can see here I've created a bracket to hold it, and the bracket has adjustment screws fore and aft that allow the thing to be carefully fine-tuned up and down. I believe this is something I'll only have to do once or very rarely. You're basically getting it in alignment initially with the tip of the nozzle. So the wiring is quite simple. I'll be talking about that in a moment, and you'll see that in a document that I'm doing separately. The extruder here is not the original extruder. This is made by ITWORKS or ITWORKS3D.com. It has the 0.4 millimeter nozzle on it, and it's set up for the 1.75 millimeter filament, which I prefer. It's what I use on all my other machines. So without great further discussion, I'm going to issue a few commands, and you'll see the BLTouch in play with the machine. So the first thing I'm going to do is issue a G28 command. I'm using Simplify 3D, and what that will do is cause the X and Y axis to home, and eventually the Z axis will home. It'll do a single homing. This is not for leveling yet, so let's go ahead and do that. So brings the axes to 0, brings the Z out. You can see it coming down. It's very nice that plunger on the BLTouch is only extending anywhere near the bed during the actual operation, and once it's finished doing it, it pulls back away from the print bed, and thereby there's no risk of it hitting the currently printing object. So let's now issue a G29. You'll see the grid like, I use a 3x3 grid, a grid like homing and leveling operation. So get a G29 in here. You can see I'm working with Simplify 3D. I'm working in the printer control panel, and there's the command. I'm in the communications tab, and I'm issuing a G29. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll press enter, and it moves over and begins the process of discovering where the bed is at 9 test points laid out sort of like a tic-tac-toe board. So we're at the 8th point, about to hit the 9th, and once that's done, it is ready to print. I will also share in a companion document the startup code that I use. I do still use this wiper device down here to clean the nozzle, but that's all it's doing. It's only cleaning it for printing purposes and not to try to make electrical contact. The short of this is that adding this BLTouch to the machine probably added about between $40 and $50 worth of hardware. A fair bit of effort involved in upgrading the firmware, making the mounting bracket and such. But once it's in, as far as I'm concerned, it has made this a superior printer, and the results show out that basically it takes care of itself, never fails to start, and this is a highly recommended modification, but mainly for those people who are comfortable working with firmware and making custom parts. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy.